Hi and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Franco Trimboli. Thank you for your time. Today, I'll be taking you through a tour of our new template library, and we'll start with an overview of rich messaging, and then we'll dive right into the template library. And then I'll show you how you can use these templates within your own business processes and how you can modify these templates to even create a library of your very own. Okay, so what is the library? The template library, in its most simplest explanation, is a collection of rich messages that we provide out of the box within Whispir. And for those of you who have not experienced what a rich message is, I'll quickly show you how they work. So to do that, I'll bring up my phone. I'll have my phone connected to the webinar, and I'll quickly launch into my SMS messages. And just as you send out messages today within Whispir using email, SMS, and push notifications, your customers and stakeholders can receive these notifications through SMS and email. And you'll notice within the SMS a URL. So you can see here it says, a new shift has become available that matches your skills. Please click on the link for more information. And this web link, when I click on it, and I'll click on it right now, that then pivots me into what we call a rich message. Now, a rich message works just like a small interactive web application. So the advantage here is that you can not only display rich data, but also capture rich data like any web application. So you'll see here I have my rich message loading up within my web browser. I can see the details of the shift availability, and I can see here that there's a small map, and that shows me the destination for this particular shift, and I can see the details of the particular job. And you also notice that there's a call to action at the bottom here. Can I work? Please confirm if I can work for this shift. So I can click on the thumbs up, and now a response has now been sent back to Whispir. So the great thing about these rich messaging capabilities is that you can provide some quite rich and interactive content for your stakeholders to experience on the Whispir platform. Okay, and I'll quickly move on to the library itself. And so what we've actually done with the library is we've selected the most commonly requested message templates across 3 areas: customer engagement, business continuity, and operational communications. And you just saw that example there where I've got a shift availability. And with these particular message templates, we've made them freely available for you to use within your Whispir account. So without any further ado, I'll launch my browser on my computer, and we'll quickly see how we can access the Whispir template. Okay, so this is me logging into the Whispir platform, and I've signed into my account. And you'll see, just like your regular Whispir account, you've got access to a number of workspaces at the top. And when I hover over my workspace menu, you'll notice that there's a number of options for the Rich Message Studio. And this is a place where you can craft and send your rich messages and access the library. So what we'll do, first of all, is I'll send myself a test message. And the way to do that is to select the new rich message action here in this workspace menu. And what that will do is it will load up the actual Rich Message Studio. So this is the Rich Message Studio for those of you that haven't seen it before. One of the things that I'll also mention is I'm currently operating within a test workspace here. I'd just like to mention that if you'd like to try these templates out for yourself, we recommend that you try them out in a test or sandbox workspace, just as a precaution. It's not a requirement by any means, but with the template library, you've also got the ability to obviously save these templates within a workspace. So using a test workspace is always a good start. Okay, so you'll notice that with this particular test workspace, I don't have any templates within my view. It's quite a blank view. Previously, we had only one option here, which was create a template from scratch. We've now introduced a new option called choose template from library. And when I click on that, you'll notice that the label at the top changes to template library, and I now have a large selection of templates that I can view within this particular page. One of the things that you'll also notice is on the left-hand side, I've got a number of categories that have just displayed. And these categories allow me to quickly browse templates by type. So I can select templates that relate to occupational health and safety. I can select templates that relate to operations, business continuity, human resources, and so on. And the great thing about these categories is that you can also leverage these categories within your own workspaces and your own Whispir account to sort templates. The other thing that you can also do within the template library, just as you could within the Rich Message Studio, is also search for templates. So if you're looking for that shift fulfillment template that we saw earlier, you can type shift and you'll see that it'll filter the view reasonably quickly. The keyword search is always really handy. So what I can do is I can obviously view the title of these templates here, and I can see a quick thumbnail of what they are. But to find out what they actually do and how they work, the easiest thing to do is to preview them. And the way that I do that is by hovering over the actual template and then clicking the preview button. And when I do that, it will load up the preview within my view. The great thing about that is I can see what message channels that this template will be sent across. So I can see that this is a rich email, and I can see the corresponding web content which relates to the rich message that you saw earlier. And because rich messages can be delivered to any mobile device, you can see obviously what it will look like on a desktop, but also you can see what it will look like on a mobile device as well. And so that's the great thing about this particular view. You don't necessarily need to send it to yourself to see what your stakeholders will experience on their device. So what I can do as well is if I want to preview more templates, I can click on the template breadcrumb at the top here, and that will take me back to my previous view, which is quite good. So I can quickly go back and forth from preview to the template library in just a single click. In addition to that, I can quickly preview another template and get a quick idea about how it works. And here's a really good example of that rich interactive content that I was talking about earlier. We can include animated images, videos, and a number of other different what we call components within these templates, and you'll see how they relate earlier, how they relate to the templates and the libraries later. So let's go through and actually select a template and test it. So I will pick one that's reasonably generic. Maybe I'll get a marketing one, and I'll get an event invitation, because we always need to send event invitations out to people. So I'll click on that one, and you'll notice that this time I clicked on the use button. When you click the use button, this will actually take you to the edit page of this particular template. And so rather than being in the preview view, I'm now in the edit view. And the great thing about this is I can quickly go through here and review the content and change the content if I like, and review the content over the various channels. But rather than save this template to my particular account, what I'd like to do is actually send this message out. So what I'll do is you can click on the send breadcrumb at the top, and this will allow you to actually experience the template within your own email, within your own mobile device. So I haven't actually saved this to my workspace yet. What I've done is I've selected this template within the template library. I've clicked on use, and now I can send it with myself to myself without having to commit to saving it within my workspace. So I can click on the to button here. That will launch the address book. I can send it to Casey and myself. And I can click on the send button, and I'll get a message on my device, and I can actually experience this invitation message on my device. And so I've just received that message on my phone. I'll quickly show you how that looks. So there's a message that I've just received. There's the SMS. And now I'll click on the link. And you'll see that without me having to save this template within my workspace, I can quickly send it to myself and experience what it would look like. And the great thing about this is you'll notice that it's actually resolved my details because I had a contact within the Whispir platform. It's now personalized this particular message to say, "Hi, Franco, we would love to see you at an up-and-coming customer event." So I can go through there and I can action the various call to actions. So I can select, will I be attending? Do I have any dietary requirements? I'm trying to reduce my salt, so I'll select low salt. And I'll say, yes, I would like to bring a colleague, and I can submit that particular form. So it's as simple as that for you to select the template within our library and send it to yourself. And that will appear within your message list, and the responses that I've just sent back will also be available as well. Okay, so now that you're happy with that particular template, you might want to save this particular template within your own workspace so that you can modify it for your own use. And so I'll go back and load the Rich Message Studio. So I can click on, actually first I'll click Rich Message Studio, and that will allow me to once again choose a template from the library. So I can go through here and once again use the filters on the left-hand side, or potentially search for that invite template that I quite liked. And I can use this particular template. And I can go here and I can obviously edit this template if I wish. But before I do that, what I'd like to do is just quickly save it to my workspace. And if I click on this save button at the top, I'll now be presented with the ability to save this template within my workspace. So I can rename it if I wish. Rather than say marketing event invitation, I can say might be conference event invitation. I can select the category as well. So these are the categories that exist within my current Whispir account. You'll notice that the categories are somewhat different. I'll select, I don't actually have one here. I'll select a training one. It's probably inappropriate here, but just to quickly illustrate that I can save it under a category. I can also provide a brief description as well if I want to describe this template in greater detail. In addition to that, I can replace the template thumbnail. So the thumbnail is what you see when you launch the Rich Message Studio, and the template thumbnail is quite useful to visually represent what the template does. So it's quite simple to click on the replace button and you can upload an image or a thumbnail that best suits your business purposes. So I can save this template, and you'll now notice now that I've saved my template, it now appears within my workspace templates within the ABC operations workspace. And that category I selected is now available on the left-hand side. If I want to save another template, I can repeat that process in the exact same way. So I can choose a template from the library, but rather than go for a marketing or customer comms template, I might want to select a outage report, for instance. I'll select this outage report template here, and I can click on use. And once again, this is obviously a very different template from what we saw earlier. And I can click on save and then save this to my workspace. And so when I click on save, I've now transferred those two templates that were in the template library into my workspace, and that will enable me to edit the content, edit the branding, and effectively make it my own to use within my business. So the next part of this particular webinar is to talk about how we change templates. So now that I've saved these templates within my workspace, I might want to change the way the template looks and the content that it includes. So I'll go through and select the event invitation that I saved. And the first thing that you'll notice is that when I'm using the Rich Message Studio, it's slightly different to our classic messaging interface. And the way that it works is when I hover my mouse over these various sections, they highlight. And the reason for them doing that is that they're known as components. So these sections are known as components, and rich messages are made up of these modular sections. And editing them is pretty straightforward. What I do is I can click on them, and when I click on them, you'll notice that the content of this particular component is now available on the right-hand side. So it's really easy for me to tailor my template with the content that I require. So rather than saying an upcoming customer event, I can say an upcoming conference. And you'll see when I update this content here, the content is reflected on the left-hand side within my template. The great thing about this is that these templates are constructed, and there's components within these templates constructed so that they facilitate a really easy way for you to edit these particular sections. So you'll see here that when I select the event details part of the component, on the right-hand side, I've got a number of different sections that allow me to easily edit the various headings. So you'll see that there's a section called title text, and it's called event details, and I can change that to conference details, and you'll see that will reflect there. If there's a section that I want to remove, it's quite easy to remove that as well. If I don't want to include the date, it's really easy for me to delete the content, and you'll notice that that content will delete over here. So we've created these templates and these components to be reasonably flexible so that you can add fields, data, and values to best suit your particular business practices and business use cases. The other thing as well is with the more, one of the things that you would have noticed is that we had a Google map within this particular template. And I'll quickly show you how it looked in the actual phone. So there it is there on my phone. You'll see how to get there, and the location and the map. And there's a component here, and when I click on that, you'll notice that the map has the ability for me to actually set the address as well within this component. So it's very easy for me to actually update this Google map by typing in an updated address here. So I can change that from 61 to 81, and you'll see that the map will now update with the updated address. So it's really quite easy for you to go in, edit the content within these particular templates without having to know how to edit a Google map. It's as simple as just changing an address. The other thing that I will also mention as well is because the template itself consists of a number of different channels, a handy reminder is to ensure that you obviously update the content across channels as well. And it's quite easy to do that. You just click on the template, the channel tab at the top, and that enables you to quite easily change the content within the particular mobile, email, and web channels for rich messaging. So that's how we edit the actual content itself. But one of the things that you might be more interested in is actually changing the branding of these templates to actually match your own company brand. And what we've done is we've made it really easy for you to do that. And the way that you do that is we've built a special component at the top, which we call the main header. And when you click on edit here, you'll notice that obviously on the right-hand side, I've got a number of different options that I can select from. And the first thing I want to do here is I might want to do things like change the logo. And it's quite simple for me to change the logo. I can click on the replace action here, and I can either browse one in terms of browse a logo that I've got within my particular library within Whispir, or I can upload a logo that I've got on my computer. So you'll see here that I've got the existing Whispir logo, and I can click choose file, and here's one that I've prepared earlier, Metro City, and this will quite easily upload a new logo. So this is just a brand that we use for our demos called Metro City, and it's quite easy for me to replace the logo by just simply uploading a logo from my computer. You'll notice that the logo is a little bit small, so I can go in here and change the width of that. I can say I want it to be 50% of the size of this particular screen, and I might want to, because my company branding is left aligned, I might want to make it left aligned. You'll also notice that it's got a red background, but there's white there. If I scroll down, you'll notice that I've also got the ability to do things like change the background color. And you can see here that with only a few clicks, I've uploaded a logo, I've changed its sizing, its alignment, and even changed the background color. And so it's really straightforward for you to take an existing Whispir template and make it your own. One of the other things you'll notice is that when I click done, the actual details that I've just edited within that component are now saved. You'll also notice that despite the fact that I've changed the red logo at the top, everything else is blue. We've also catered for that within the particular branding as well. So you can scroll down and you'll notice that we've got a number of different sections that allow you to do things like change the background color, change the font style as well, change the size, the text alignment. So it's really, really quite easy for you to go in here and change the actual color of all the headings. So I'll change all the headings to red. So I'll quickly do that now. If you know, you can also be a little more accurate in terms of the color selection as well. We support hex values as well. So if you have a style guide that you utilize within your business, they will often have things called hex values. We support those. You can enter them in and they'll reflect within the template itself. So I can click on red. I'll make all the headings red. And I think I can also change the buttons as well. So you'll see that all the buttons can also be reflected with the correct color as well. And when I click done, you'll now notice that all of the text that was originally blue is now red. So it's really quite straightforward for you to go in there and start branding the template to be your own company brand. So the other great thing about this is, rather than me having to do this for every template that exists within the template library, we allow you the ability to actually save this component within your own workspace. And that allows you to actually take this particular component and drag and drop it into an existing template, and that will change the branding within that template without you having to repeat the actions that you've done previously. So to do that, you can click on the edit button, and you'll notice that instead of clicking on done this time, I can click on save as component. The great thing about this is I can save this component as a favorite and then use it for future reference. So when I click on save as a component, I can give this a name. So we suggest that you give it a name that obviously makes sense for a user who's crafting up a rich message in the future, so that they understand what the actual component does. So I can call this Metro City header, branded header. And that will be used, actually I'll call it branded heading, and that can be used for all of my branding for rich messaging. I can give it a description. I can say, please use this branding for all rich messages. The other option is when you save a component within Whispir, you've got the ability to not only save this component within this workspace, but what I can do is I can save a component that has our standard company branding and make it available across all workspaces. And the great thing about that is you can have other business units within your organization creating their own rich messages, and they can drag and drop this particular component, this branding component that we've built, into their template, and all their branding will be standardized across all of their templates. So they'll have the right logo, the right colors, and the right fonts, and the right layout across all of the rich messages that they create. So the great thing about that is that you can even be more diligent about ensuring that your templates are on brand. And then, of course, I can give it an icon as well, so I can quickly understand what it does at a glance. So I will give it this one right here, and I'll click on save. And when I do that, what you'll notice is that it has now said the component has now been saved successfully. And you can see here on the right-hand side, it now says that I've got a Metro City branded heading. Please use this branding for all rich messages. And for me to use this particular component, it's a simple case of me just dragging and dropping it into the actual rich message. So it's as easy as that to change the branding. So I'll delete that component. And the great thing about that is when you're editing these particular templates, you may come across a need to include an additional drop down here. That might be an example. So you're asking, will people attend? What are their dietary requirements? Would they like to bring a colleague or friend? I might want to add another option down here to say, well, how many colleagues do you want to add? So what I can do here is I can click on edit, and I can save this as a component, and I can save it as a drop down input field. And I can give it I think I'll give it that particular icon, and I can click on save. And now that particular component is available. So it makes it really easy for me to now drag and drop additional components so I can build out more options within this particular template. So now that I've drag and dropped that in, I can click on edit, and I can say, how many colleagues would you like to bring? And I can then say 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've provided these particular, I've modified the particular component here so that now, rather than me asking someone how many people they'd like to bring, they can nominate how many people they'd like to bring rather than a colleague or friend. One of the other things that I'll mention as well is that when this message is sent to an end user, we can also correlate whether or not this is a required field or an optional field as well. So you'll see here that I've got the ability to make this a required field or an optional field, really quite straightforward. And I can also nominate what the actual text response will be. So I can say, number of people. And what will happen is when this end user clicks send, it'll say number of people equals 4 within the Whispir response. And there you go. There's the updated template, and it's as simple as that to take what was an existing Whispir branded message and effectively make it my own branded message with some additional options that I've included, as you can see below. I can then click on save and then save this particular template. And that's it, we're done. So I've now customized this particular template. When I click on edit, all my changes are now saved. I'll quickly go back and show you how you can edit this outage report template, when I click on edit, you'll notice that obviously this hasn't been updated, and it includes the original Whispir branding. So what I can do, I can quickly drag and drop my Metro City branded template here, delete the Whispir branding, and you'll now notice that the text is now red, the branding is now red, the headings are red, and the buttons are red. So once I've done that initial configuration to brand my template, I can just drag and drop them, and we're done. So one of the particular use cases for this particular template, this is a business continuity template in relation to an outage, but it could potentially be used for an operational update to internal stakeholders. And the way that I can modify this particular template to better suit my needs is a simple case of changing the content. And what we've done is you'll notice that for this particular BCM template, there's a number of steps here. There's 1 to 8, but that may be too many steps for my particular business process. So it's really easy for me to edit this particular component. So when I click on edit, you'll notice on the right-hand side, I can go in here and edit all the various options. So I can change the content from assessment complete to assessment ongoing, for instance, or assessment, change that to sit, details. And you'll notice that content updates here. In addition to that, I might have too many steps. So I can go and delete step 8. I can delete step 7. And you'll see that these smart components that we've built automatically update. So if there's too many sections, I can remove them. If I want to change the headings, I can change them. If I want to change the way that they're identified, instead of using ones, I can use A's and B's, and you'll see that the A's and B's and so on update. And the great thing about this as well is you've also got the ability to use simple things like drop downs to change the content and the color of these particular components. So it makes not only the composition of the template really easy, but it also means that when you're sending these messages out in a rush on the Whispir platform, it makes it really easy for your end users to go through here and just simply change the status of a particular item and then send the message out without having to craft that message from scratch. So that's how the current templates work and components work. The great thing about this is when I obviously click save, that template will now be available for me to use within this workspace, not only for me, but for all the business unit users who have an account or a user account within Whispir. So once you've set up these particular templates, branded them, they can be used by others. So that's the important thing. The great thing about the template library as well is that if you want to add additional templates to your workspace, you can go back and repeat that process that we saw earlier. So if you would like to include, for instance, a template that included a training video for human resources, I can use this particular template, modify it, and then save it within this workspace as well. So it's really quite easy for you to go in back to the template library and retrieve an updated template, re-edit it, and so on. So you're not limited to just selecting one template within the template library and editing that. You can save that template multiple times within your workspace and utilize it as needed. So that is a very, very brief overview of the template library. I can spend all day running through all the various templates, but I do suggest that if you have a Whispir login today, you've got the ability to access the template library within the Rich Message Studio in your account. And I do suggest that you go through an experiment and send yourself a number of rich messages and get familiar with the way that Rich Message Studio works. In addition, the template library itself is constantly evolving as well. So while we have, I think, close to 24 or 26 different use cases and templates that you see within the template library, the template library will evolve and include more use cases over time. And we'll obviously be in touch with you over our regular channels and let you know that the templates within the template library have been updated. Obviously, we will also be uploading this video to YouTube, and that will enable both yourself and other users within your business unit to go through and experience the template library and then use it within your own account. So thank you for your time today. I will wrap up and lead into some questions. So there's a few people who've been responding to a few questions today. So one of the first questions is, can I take components from multiple templates and merge them into a single template? Absolutely. So what you can do, and I'll show you a brief example of how you can do that. As you saw earlier, with the templates that I had created here with the events invitation, I can make those templates available, or those components available within any other existing template. So when I edit this BCM outage progress report, I now have access to all the components that I've saved previously. So I can include a drop-down input field here. So there's that component that I saved earlier, and it's really quite straightforward for me to save these components and build up my own component library of my own, so that I can craft up my own templates within my own workspace. An example of that is I can go to the template library. So if I go back to the template library, and there might be a template or a component that I find quite useful. So there's with that shift fulfillment template that we saw earlier, one of the great things that I quite love about this template is the thumbs up and thumbs down. So what I can do here is I can click on edit and then save this as a component, and I can say, thumbs up and down. Save it. And now I have the thumbs up, thumbs down component here. I can go back to one of my templates. So I can go back to the event invitation template. And instead of the submit form button, I can replace that with a thumbs up, thumbs down. So let me just drag and drop that to the right section. And I can say, oops, sorry about that. I can then say, instead of can you work, I can say, can you attend? Please confirm if you can attend this conference. And I can then delete all these other elements because they're no longer needed. I'm just asking for a quick yes, no. Okay, all right, so excellent. I'll call that a wrap. Thank you so much for your time today, and hopefully it's been very valuable. Franco Trimboli from Whispir, and if you have any additional feedback in relation to what you've seen today, please feel free to email us at info.whispir.com. So thank you for your time.